Okay, girls, this is day one of our 12 days of Christmas. And Missy, as I've told you in the past, a lot of times it's always more fun making things than it is actually having them. So I decided that this year, for your 12 days of Christmas, which will also be your Christmas gift, because the stuff that I'm buying is costing quite a bit of money, I'm going to teach you how to make things, and you can make them. And so you get to craft with grandma, and you get a Christmas present, and I hope you enjoy this. So today we're going to make the mug. Now your mother has the finished product. If she opened up her first day of Christmas, she's got the finished product. And this is what you're going to need. There should be a circle pattern in there that you'll need for the bottom, and it's going to tell you what to cut out. And you will need, for your main piece on the outside, you're going to need a piece that's 14 and a quarter by 5 and a half. And for the inside of your mug, you are going to need a piece, again, 14 and a quarter by 5 and a half. Now, each of these pieces, I have divided, if you can see on the video, into 5 equal sections. They should fold up nicely like this. 5 equal sections. And these sections are, so you can mark yours once you cut them, 14 and a quarter by 5 and a half. All right, the first one is, it's supposed to be 2. It's a little over 2 because you got your hem here. And then in between each one, they're about 2 and a half. 2 and a half, 2 and a half, 2 and a half, 2 and a half, and 2 and a half, approximately. So get your fabric, mark between each, or mark out 2.5 inches between each one, and then fold on those marks and press it so that you've got a mark. Remember, this is the one that's going to go inside your mug, like this. And this one's going to be on the outside of the mug, like that. So choose your colors, which ones you want. I've included some fabrics. If you don't like those fabrics, you can use whatever you happen to have around the house. You're also going to need to cut the circle piece, and I sent the pattern for that. And you are going to need to cut, this is the inside pocket, one that goes inside the cup. And the inside pocket is 18 inches long. 18 inches long by, it's 8 inches wide, because I have folded it in half and pressed it. So 8 by 18. So you need to cut your inside pocket 8 by 18. And then you're going to mark this one. There's 3 and a quarter there. Then there's 3, 3, 3, 3, and 3 and a quarter. Well, that's about 3. So they're going to be between 3 and 3 and a quarter in between each pin. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get it as close to that as you possibly can. Okay, and again, I pressed where I marked them. These are my pockets. For the outside pocket, you are going to cut a piece that's 22 inches long. 22 inches by 8. Just checking here, by 8 and a half. Yeah, by 8 and a half. Just checking my measurements. We'll open this up, because I folded it in half again. Okay, 8 and a half. So 22 by 8 and a half. And again, you're going to mark out your pocket marks. And on this piece, 22 by 8 and a half outside pocket, these are at 3 3/4 on the outside edges, and then they're 3 1/2 in between each pin. 3 1/2, 3 1/2, and 3 3/4 on either end. So 3 3/4, 3 3/4 here, 3 3/4 here, 3 1/2 in between each one. All right, so now we're going to go back to our main piece. This is our main cup piece, and you are going to line up the first pin with the first fold right there, and you're going to pin it. Oh, where are the rest of my pins? And you're going to pin it. You're going to line up this pin with this fold, keeping the bottom edges even, and you're going to pin it down. And you're going to do that with each of these, and then you're going to go to your sewing machine and you're going to sew right where that fold was, straight down. So that one is going to get stitched. Then we're going to bring this one over and we're going to stitch this one straight down, and then we're going to match up this one with that fold mark and stitch straight down. Match up this pin with this fold and stitch straight down. Then match up this pin with this fold, line up the bottoms, and you're going to stitch straight down. So then you're going to also take this end, and you're going to stitch that one down, and you're going to take this one over here, and you're going to stitch that one down, right like that. So then you're going to have this piece with all of these little pockets, all right? You're going to do the same thing. I'm going to show you the same thing with the inside. You're going to take your inside piece and your inside pockets, line up the bottoms, line up your marks. You're going to put this here, and you're going to stitch straight down. You're going to line up this one here. These are smaller pockets, they're on the inside, and you're going to stitch straight down, right on that fold right there. And you're going to do the same thing with this one. And then this one. And then the last one. Put them right on there, line up your bottom edges, and pin it and stitch straight down. So when you do that, you're going to have, again, your pockets. You're going to get your outside edges as well. Pin those in there. And pin those in there. Okay, so you go get your fabric cut, get everything marked the way I showed you, stitch your pockets in place, and come back and I'll show you how to put the rest of it together. Okay, I'm back. I hope you've got yours all done up nice. All right, so this is the outside piece. Once I got my pocket on there, and you can see that these are much baggier than this because they're going to be sitting around the cup like that. So what you're going to do now is you're going to find your the seams that you put down here. You're going to push into the middle, and then you're going to flatten it down like that. And then you're going to put in a couple of pins to hold it. like that. So once again, let's do it this way. This is the pocket. Fold the pocket in half. There's the two seams that are holding that pocket together right there. No, that ain't gonna work. What am I thinking here? Okay, here's the seam 1 and seam 2. I'm just trying to figure out an easy way to explain this to you. Come to the center. And fold it down so it makes a little pleat, and then pin it. Okay, now you're going to do that with all of them. Let me show you one more time. You're going to bring this up, find center. Well, you can find center this way. Find center, put it down like this. And then push it down into a pleat. And pin it. You can do it even on the end pieces, the last ones. Find center. And once you got it put together, you're going to push it down, make a pleat, and pin it. When you get all of your pleats pinned, you're going to go back to your sewing machine. You're going to sew across the bottom to sew the pleats into place. Once again, find center, fold it down, push it down to make the pleat, like that, and pin it. Okay, last one. Find center. Push it down. Make a pleat. And pin it. You're going to do the same thing with your inside pockets, but these are much smaller. So once again, you're going to find center, which is right here on this one. It's actually almost easier just to fold these over, but the pleat works better because it'll give you more space inside your pocket. And pin it. But you see how much smaller these are? Find center on the pocket, right here. Go down, push. Okay, this one doesn't want to cooperate. There we go, push. So you have a nice little pleat and pin. Again, do all of them and stitch across the bottom to hold them all in place. When you get done with that, come on back and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, good. Okay, now, as you can see, I got my pockets in on both sides. And then what I did was I put right sides together and I joined my two pieces here in the middle. And I also want to make note that none of my pockets are exactly the same size. So don't freak out if they're not exactly the same size. You see how teeny tiny this one is? I don't know if you can see it or not. This one's much wider. These are closer in size, but they're not exact. This one's pretty wide. This one's a lot narrower, but they're evened out well enough that you've got equal size pockets here. So don't worry about it if that happens. Now, once you've sewn this seam here, I'm going to move one step ahead of you. What I want you to do is fold it this way. And this is the inside of the cup. This is the outside. This is the inside. Fold it in half, match up your seams. And from this seam here, your center seam, down to the bottom, stitch in a 1/4 inch seam allowance. By the way, this is a 1/4 inch seam allowance as well. Always use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're going to match up your seams here, and you're going to stitch up the inside of your cup right here, just this part, all right? So go do that, and then come on back. Okay, my inside seam allowances, or my inside seam on the inside of the cup is stitched up right here. This is still open, all right? Don't sew that part up yet. So now what you're going to do is you're going to fold this in half, seam over here, fold it in half, put a pin. And then you're going to put that pin on the seam, pull it out, and you're going to mark it, put a pin on each of those. So now you've got it marked out in quarters. So you're going to take your circle piece, you're going to fold it in half, and you're going to fold it in half again. And what I do, which I've already done, is I just snip off a little bit of the corner, not a lot, because you don't want to snip down into your seam allowance. Just snip it off. And then when you open it up, if you look, you've got little notches at 1/4 inch. So now you're going to take this and you're going to put a notch at a pin, right sides together, by the way, notch at a pin, open this up, notch at the back, or in this case it's at the side because it's where the cup handle is, and the last one right there. And now you're just going to simply ease the fabric in between those pins, and you can put in another pin if you want to. And once again, you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sewing the bottom into this piece. Okay, hope you're having fun crafting with Grandma, even though I'm up here in New York and you're down there in PA. I'm having fun making this and showing you how to do it. So I hope you have fun completing the project yourself. And you can put this on your desk, or you can put it on your sewing table with whatever you want to put in it. Okay, it's all pinned in now. Now I'm going to go back to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way around the inside seam, and then I will have a bottom in my mug cover, and I'll be back with the next step. Okay, we're getting there. Here's the bag, or the cover, I mean. Center seam stitched, side seam stitched, and the circle is in the bottom, right there. All right, here's the finishing things. You need to cut 2 pieces of fabric, doesn't matter which color you choose, that are 2 inches wide by 5.5 inches long. 5.5 inches long. Okay, and fold them in half and just stitch across the top and snip the corner so that you can turn it smoothly. So you got a piece that looks like that. You need 2 of them. So 2 inches wide, 5.5 inches long, stitch the top together and fold them over. Now, you're also going to need the ribbon that I sent you, and because I don't have any ribbon, I'm using string or strips that I made out of the actual fabric, and I am cutting them into strips. These are approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches long, about. So 4 pieces of ribbon about 7 or 8 inches long. You're going to pin one a 1/2 inch from the top down, right here, pin it on there. And another one a 1/2 inch up from the bottom. So about a 1/2 inch up from the bottom. You're going to put a pin in there and hold that one in place too. Like I say, you're going to use ribbon. I didn't have any ribbon that would match this fabric, so I made these ties out of the fabric. I'm going to flip it around and directly across. You want them to line up. You're going to pin your ribbons on the other side of this opening that you have left here. One here, and 1 1/2 inch from the bottom. Now take those strips that you made, that you folded in half, and you are going to lay them on the inside. You want the seamed edge up here, but you're going to lay them on the inside. It's just going to get tricky here. Open this up, lay this on the inside right at the top, right there, so it matches up with the outside of the fabric, right there. You're going to put it there, and you're going to pin all this together. And down. Okay, and you're going to turn it around and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're going to open this up, laying this on the inside so that it's even with that seam, and you're going to pin it right like that. And now go back to your sewing machine, and you're going to stitch those 2 pieces on, catching these strings, your ribbon in there at the same time. Okay, go do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm trying to lay this out as clearly as I can, and I know it's probably a little complicated looking from where you are, but what you need to do now, I'll make sure I keep this in the middle here, is these pieces are now stitched on like that from the inside to the back. This is the outside. So now you're going to bring this piece over to the front, and you're going to lay it right over the top of that raw edge, and now you've got a nice bias tape on there. So your raw edges are sealed in. And you're going to pin it. Okay, right there, and right here. And then one more in the middle just to make sure. And that's that. Pretty simple. You're going to do that to both sides, and then you're going to stitch on the very edge of your bias. It's going to hold that in, and then your ties are caught in there so that you can tie it onto your mug. So once again, here's that piece that you just sewed on, hemmed at the top. You're going to lay the seam over flat, and then you're going to fold this over it right up to the seam line, and you're going to pin it. And you're going to do that up here at the top. Fold it over, catching all those raw edges in there. And you're going to pin it. And then get one more in the middle. Okay, now stitching close to the edge, right along the edge, you're going to stitch this down, burying that raw edge inside your bias. All right? Okay, so here it is. I've got my bias tape stitched down on the top. I got my ties to put it on my mug just like that. And then up here at the top where the two join together, I overlapped my two pieces of bias and I stitched across the top to give it extra strength. And it also holds it together and just neatens it up a little bit. Now the last thing you're going to do is you're going to cut a piece of bias for the bottom. It doesn't have to be on the bias, just straight. That's going to be 15¼ inches long by 2 inches wide. You're going to stitch the edges together just like you did on this on either end. See, I've already stitched it. There's one, and there's the other. And then you're going to put it on the inside of your mug cover and stitch it down 1/4 inch. And then again, you're going to turn this edge up and you're going to pin it down and you're going to stitch it across. And that's how you put on your edging and clean up the raw edges on this. Just going to put it down, going to pin it. I've already stitched it on the back, pin it down, and when I stitch it up, the mug cover will be done. Now if you wanted to get real ambitious and adventurous, you could do this over a bucket, make it bigger. Okay. Sorry for the silence. If you don't like the silence, you can put me on pause. You can turn me off. Isn't that great? You can turn me off. Okay, so there it is. Now I'm going to stitch that down, and when I get it stitched down, this will be complete. I'll be right back. Okay, here it is. It's all finished. I got the bias tape on the bottom. I have my strings where I could tie it onto the cup right there. Strings, tying it on, bias tape along the bottom. Inside, you got all your little pockets. Outside, you got all your little pockets. And you're all set to go. There's your little mug organizer. Isn't it cute? Hope you enjoyed this. Tomorrow's craft will be much simpler. I figured I would stagger. This one's kind of complicated. Tomorrow's will be a quickie. So get ready, get prepared, and we'll craft again tomorrow. Bye, girls.